Yo, what's good? Welcome back to another episode of the Music Is My Business podcast. We are here at NAMM 2023. I'm with my guy, Xcaliberzero. We were both a part of an amazing sync panel here at NAMM, and it was crazy. Like the room was packed. It was a crowd outside the room that couldn't make it in, and it was a line wrapped around the side wall. So it was crazy. We dropped a lot of gems, and we had to hop on this joint and have another conversation. You've been on the podcast before, man, but how's it going, bro? How you feeling?
Good, man. Definitely was crazy and surreal to see that amount of people show up.
Yeah.
And kind of, pick our brains and learn from us. And I feel like there's a lot of good information there.
Yeah.
The panel was put together really well. Shout out to the Fingers for putting everybody together.
Facts,
in one area. I feel like there's a lot of good sync gems that were dropped. So, definitely honored to be a part of that experience.
Yeah, man, absolutely. I think sync it's like one of those things where people are realizing that, it's an opportunity, especially as an independent musician, artist, songwriter. It's an opportunity to take advantage of, and it's like a space that's wide open that allows us to monetize our music, man. So tell people, I guess, how you kind of got started in the sync space, because I know you got background working with an actual library, which I feel like is incredible insight just to see that whole operation. So I guess talk about that.
For sure. So I started off, I went to Full Sail University, and they have a career development program, and they had a couple of internships lined up after I graduated that they gave me, that they told me that I could kind of take. And one of them was working for a music library. And I always saw people on SoundClick, in the SoundClick era, that people would have like MTV placements or stuff like that on their sites, but I never really knew how to get into that. Yeah. So then when I got the internship, I saw the whole, the criteria they had, and it was about sync licensing. So they said some of the things that they needed. They preferred a composer. I tried out for it. They gave me a 7-month internship. And then I got on full time. Some of the things I did was like metadata. I filled out all the metadata for all the tracks in the entire catalog. Right. I did cue sheets. I did a curated playlist for music supervisors and editors and production companies. And I got a lot of different insight as far as sync licensing, but at the same time, I was able to create. And I was a producer where I was just making beats for like artists and stuff like that. Right. So that really gave me a chance to work with people who are already established in this lane, because some of the co-founders were actually composers as well. So they let me pick their brain and kind of learn from it. And that's how I kind of got my opportunity from sync licensing and grew to where I am now.
Yeah, that's amazing, man. I feel like a lot of people kind of, they want to jump from day job to like full-time sync overnight. But I feel like the approach you took was like, let me link up with a company who does it and work in it, and like, let me learn, because you can ask questions while you're there and just kind of get that information and insight. I think that was a really dope approach. For sure. Man, so I guess, what was your first placement? I always like to ask you, like, what was that first one that just kind of set everything off for you?
It was Skin Wars on GSN, and it was cool because I was actually in the production company's office, and they were going through the music, and they were sitting in something called an editing bay, and that's where they're actually editing the TV show. Okay. It's like a little studio with some speakers, and they have like Avid, or kind of like Final Cut Pro or Premiere Pro, and they're going through all the music for the scenes, and they're like, this track isn't working, we're looking for something like this. So then my boss tells them where to look as far as one of the folders, and my track was one of the ones that were on the top of the list, and they played it, and they're like, yes, like this, it was perfect. Yeah. And to me, that track was kind of trash. Like, I honestly thought it was trash, but it was cool because it was my first placement. I never heard my track used ever. Okay. So being able to hear that live, obviously I had the butterflies in my stomach when it went to my track, but it was cool to be able to see that go into fruition, because a few months later, after they were done with production, it was placed, and I was actually able to hear it. Crazy. I was hyped.
Yeah, man. Nah, I feel you. That excitement, man, from getting the first one it's like no other, man. I think it fuels you to go harder, man, and push. What was your strategy like after the first one? Was this like, I want to see, what I can make of it, or sign more deals, get more placements with the same company? Like, what was the next step for you after that first?
That's a good question, man. I was very loyal. I'm still very loyal but I was very loyal to the company I was working with. Okay. So I didn't even want to approach any other libraries to work with at that time. I was just with them. And I think what it really, I needed to kind of see is like, I would try so many different styles. Even that placement that I got was way out of my style. Okay. And I think that I was so focused on trying to get every single type of placement instead of honing in on what I'm really good at and actually landing that placement. Like really honing in on the style that I'm really good at creating and taking over and fulfilling what that library lacked. If that library lacked in a specific style and I can create more and more and fill that style, that's what really helped me kind of navigated my process.
That's dope. That's interesting that you said find where the library is lacking, and you talked about this on the panel too, of like becoming a go-to person for something that they may not have. I think that's a dope approach. So like, talk about that. Like, do you feel like it's beneficial, or it seems like it's beneficial to be more of a specialist than like a generalist that knows how to do everything and wants to submit everything? Like, what's been your approach to
That's definitely a question I get a lot, is that people like who are trying to get into sync, they want to be versatile and not be trapped into one style.
Right.
And I do encourage that, but you need to get to a point where you're comfortable making that one style and then venturing out instead of like trying to do everything at once.
Yeah.
And what really helps me is that I got an opportunity for this show, and I talked about it in the panel earlier, called Real Housewives of Potomac. It's based out of DC area.
Okay.
I'm from Northern Virginia,
Yeah.
and it's like the DMV area, that's what they call it. And one of the popular styles of music that's out there that's kind of low key and underground is go-go music.
Yep.
So they had reached out asking for music and go-go for Real Housewives of Potomac, and I was keen to that style. I already knew that style of music, so I was able to supply that.
Yeah.
And I became the go-to person. So every time they needed more music, they keep coming to me, and I was like the main person. I got a lot of placements that way, and then every season after that, they kept reaching out to me. So that's one way. And I like to say that music for TV is about 1 to 2 years behind.
Yeah.
So if you can make the current style and implement it in the TV style, it's really going to help you take over. So like I made this example before that, like if you can make drill music when drill was kind of popping, it was drill music.
Excuse me, sir. It was a camera recording.
No problem. Yeah, I was able to. So a couple years ago, a library hit me up and they asked for music, and I made drill music, and it wasn't. I hadn't seen the library have any drill music. So since I knew drill was kind of popping at that time, I made that, and that like those tracks for that library are still really doing really well for me because I was early on to the wave. So if you can supply a style of music that they really lack, you're going to take over. You're going to land way more opportunities that way. And then once you start getting comfortable, then venture out and start doing other styles.
Yeah, that makes sense, man. I love it. Like, so when you talk about like music, like a genre of music that's popular, how do you convert that to something that's functional for TV?
That's a great question, man. I think it's about understanding the context of how your music is being used. If you just make like a regular trap beat for an artist, right? Most likely those style of tracks fit in a specific type of scene, like B-roll, right? B-roll is when they're, shooting the scene, they're having the different city landscapes and stuff like that. I know for a fact, like most of those tracks for artists, let's say if I'm making a trap beat, will fit well for B-roll or will fit well for like drama scenes and tension scenes.
Right.
So it helped me working for the library because I was able to understand the different contexts, like underscore, or like the comedic stuff, like, the comedy stuff for comedy moments, or like drama or tension and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I can make a drill track and infuse that with drama. I can make a drill track and infuse that with comedy. So just understanding the context of how your music's going to be used will really help. And you can do that in two ways. You can either watch a TV show and see how it's being used, or you can go on a music library's website and see how they categorize their library, how are the genres set up, how do they have everything structured and stuff like that. That kind of will help you navigate making the right type of music for the styles and genres that are needed.
Yeah, I love it, man. And I feel like that's a big thing that holds a lot of producers back, specifically because they could have dope production, but because they didn't do like the research that you just pointed out, and because it's not structured properly, they still hear no and they don't know why.
Right.
Some companies won't tell you exactly like what's wrong with it. They'll just be like, no, it's not what we're looking for. So that's great, man. Like, what do you feel like are some of, say, top 3 mistakes that you see producers make, artists make when they're trying to get their music placed in TV and film?
I feel like just blindly submitting to a library, thinking that they're just going to accept your music, and not really understanding why you're getting denied. Like, what is the process that library requires? Are you even reading their library? Like, are you just going on that library site because you saw on the list and just submitting because you got their email?
Yeah.
Or are you doing your research, looking on their website, seeing what type of music they specialize in, seeing what's the best way to contact them? Do they prefer disco? Do they prefer Dropbox? So I think that like having the best approach as far as researching the library is one of the biggest mistakes that I see people make. Is like not having that that mindset. And then another one is the structure. You talked about that a little bit earlier. The structure for sure is important. You cannot have like a 30-second, 45-second intro and expect them to listen to that whole intro. If you think about the concept of TV, the intro is happening very fast. They're getting into the scene immediately.
Yep.
So I think that having your music structured properly is is really going to help you. And another mistake is becoming a professional. These guys are not your friends. Don't talk to them like you're talking to an artist. It's a different approach when you're reaching out to these people. They're professionals trying to supply for their clients, and you want to be as valuable. They want to be as valuable as they can to their clients, and they're keeping that professional mindset. And you got to have that mindset with them. Think about how you can approach them, provide them value, and approach them with that professional mindset. To come off like with a suit and tie a little bit, not too over the top, where you're just like, oh, good morning, how's your day? Like that type of stuff, but just be very, forward and forward.
I like that, man. Like professionalism is huge, and I feel like a lot of people, I don't know, they skip that class in life. It's like the class of professionalism, because even like I'll get emails, and I'm not even like a supervisor or a library. I'll still get submissions for whatever reason, but I'll get like an email in like a paragraph in the subject line, nothing in the body of the email, just attachments. You know what I'm saying? So like, how would you recommend approaching an email? Like say you went to a website, you found a music library, they have the email address there. How do you structure out emails, or like what's your approach when you're reaching out to them?
I like to keep the email short and sweet.
Okay.
There's a few tricks you can do with the subject. Okay. I know that once when I was looking for a music library, somebody had the subject that said music and it was all lowercase. Okay. For some reason that always stood out to me. Okay. And it's not like I don't think you necessarily always have to do that. Sometimes it's good to say composer submission or something. Okay. But just if you want a high open rate, that definitely works. I know for sure that works. Okay. But it's just a little trick that I've learned from working at a music library. Okay. Keep it short and sweet. Keep it professional. Mention what projects they have that you really like that they worked on. Like actually do your research and listen to what they're creating and saying, hey, I noticed you did music for this show. I really enjoyed the music for this show. I feel like it gave it a modern feel to it. Yeah. And then introducing yourself briefly. Don't give your whole bio or whole life story, and just have like a link to your tracks, and then keep it short and sweet. But 3 to 5 tracks, nothing crazy. Yeah. You don't need a whole album unless they ask otherwise. Or some libraries will ask for otherwise. We'll submit more, but the safe spot is between 3 to 5. Have a link, and then sometimes not even asking, having the link on the first approach, depending on who you're working with. But and I've heard that actually today from you. Actually, that's a good point, because I've seen that before. Yeah. But I think that just keeping it short and sweet, professional, and not going over the top, and not always like having that ask feel like what, like like I need something, like a favor from you. More so like I'm supplying you value by creating great music. Yeah. I'm gonna make your life easier by being reliable. That's kind of the intention you want to have with the email.
Yeah, love that, man. Making lives easier. Like with you working with a library, early on, what did you all find that made like the library's life easier, like people who were working at the library's life easier?
For sure. I feel like someone who just pays attention to detail, because we have submission guidelines. So if a composer started submitting music, let's say they got accepted, and we tell you we need the track title like this, we need the album work on this, we need these stems. They can't say like no drums with DRMS, has to say DRUMS, like a certain way you spell the stem. Yeah. If you're making me have to go in and fix those things because you didn't look at the PDF we sent you, that's making my life a lot harder. And I feel like that's not adding value to my life, that's taking time out of my life. So if you can just do things that, where you show you're very easy to work with and reliable, that's really going to set you apart. And just being professional by maybe having a website, it's a landing page directly to them, like showing that you take this seriously, that you put effort into this. You didn't just throw your music on a SoundCloud link and just submit it and just say, here you go. You actually like show that you're easy to work with and you want to work.
Yeah, I love that, man. Like making life easy and following instructions. Like the guidelines are there for a reason, man, and it's so important. I can't stress enough, like, as just plenty of situations where it's like you tell somebody like do this, and this, and then for whatever reason they feel like do the opposite to stand out. It's like, no, like literally I want you to do this. Like, right. So yeah, man, I love that, man. So like what are some things you're working on now? Because I know you're heavy in the community and content creation too, and educating people in this space. Like what are some things you have going on to help producers and artists and songwriters like break into sync, man?
For sure. I teamed up with this company called Heat, and they do like beat selling courses and tips and stuff like that, and really create that avenue. And I noticed their professionalism on like how well they work. Yeah. And so I teamed up with them and pitched the idea to do sync licensing and have a sync licensing course. So we did that, and it's like a window of opportunity where like it's open for a certain amount of time where you can enroll. Okay. And we do also a mentorship program, which is an idea they pitched to me, which is really dope because I get to sit with a handful of people and really help them step by step and give them like homework and assignments to really get into that professional mindset and like the workflow that you're going to be having with sync licensing. So that's what I'm focusing on right now. And then after I'm done with this mentorship, I really want to start opening up my own agency. I feel like there's so many different talented musicians out there that I'm coming across, whether if it's through the live stream or just asking for feedback and stuff like that. Right. And I really want to provide that lane for them, especially working with Signature Tracks, the music library I work for. I learned so many ins and outs of how to actually supply and demand for these companies and stuff like that. And I have the administration work, so I can easily teach that and have somebody else do that as well. So I feel like that's the next step of where I want to do. And then continuing to put out content, collaborating, going to events like this, working with talented people like you, and just like really building up a big network to really take over and give people opportunities that they're looking for.
Yeah, man. I love it, dude. Like, I feel like especially today, having like things like your mentorship program that you're doing and the courses, like, man, it minimizes like the years and years and years that it could take to learn this stuff, and like having that mentorship can just cut down that time to where you can go from point A to was like no placements, not knowing how to do everything that you need to know how to do to get a placement, to like having TV placements. I feel like that's really valuable in our space, in our community today. So shouts to you, man, for doing that stuff and being genuine and like really trying to help people learn about this, man. So I think that's super dope. So if people wanted to find more information about that, like how can they get in touch with you? I'm
on Xcaliberzero on all social medias. If you're on YouTube, it's Xcalibersync, but everything else is Xcaliberzero. I put free information out, so even if you can't afford a course, whatever like that, I'm still showing you step by step how you can achieve the results you're looking for. As well as Clint, man, he's out here doing the same thing, and he's killing it, and he's giving out a lot of great information. So I definitely think that if you're out there, the information is there for you. So.
Yep. It's up to you to implement it, man. We give you the plays. It's just up to you to run the play and make something happen with it. So appreciate you, bro, for chopping it up with you. It was great being out here and being on the panel and just sharing the information with you, bro. So wishing you the best and much success. Success.